Well, we are entering the final 2 weeks of the session with lots of issues still to be decided, including rebate checks that could be sent out to taxpayers. King 5's Olympia Bureau Chief Drew Mickelson joins us from the Capitol now to explain. Drew, what can you tell us?
Hi, Christine. Well, we got looks at several different budget proposals this past week. Some controversial bills came up for debate and for vote. There's going to be a lot of developments here as we wrap up this short session, which is scheduled to end on March 7th. So what's going to happen with that proposal to limit rent increases? The bill to put a 7% annual cap on rent hikes has already passed off the floor of the House, and Thursday it had its first hearing in the Senate. So it's still alive, but it's not clear if there's going to be enough support to get that all the way through. You mentioned the rebate checks. That's one that's going to get a lot of attention. The state has a new climate law, and it's charging the state's top polluters. And both the House and Senate budget proposals call for giving $200 of that revenue back to taxpayers in low or moderate income households. $200 rebate checks. But the version in the House would be cut in half if voters throw out that climate law come November. Democrats want the Climate Commitment Act preserved, so House Republicans called that proposal tied to the election fishy.
To send hundreds of dollars to people right before and right after an election, where the second payment is based on how they vote in the election, that is really suspicious. I don't think a sign of good government.
Well, I'd be interested to know how Representative Stokesbury would propose to pay for that rebate if the revenue from the Climate Commitment Act stops coming in December. It would not be responsible budgeting for us to make a promise that we can't keep.
So, Drew, one bill that is now on its way to the governor's desk would ban school boards from being able to implement book bans. Can you explain that one? This has been already a nationwide topic, too.
Exactly. And we've seen more book bans across the nation and across the state of Washington since 2020. And this bill is a direct result of that. It's essentially a ban on book bans. Under the law, school boards would not be able to ban books that involve subject matter regarding groups considered protected. For example, race, sex, or someone's sexual orientation, like the book Jack of Hearts, which tells the story of an LGBTQ teen. Under the law, if a parent or guardian objects to a book, school boards would be able to prevent their student from accessing the book, but they could not ban books district-wide. Supporters say those books show students in those protected groups that they're not alone. But those who voted against the bill say these decisions need to be up to individual school boards.
To reach into their business at the local level and start prohibiting things and taking away their abilities to make the changes that they feel are in the best interest of their communities, it's the wrong approach.
LGBTQ young people exist in Meade and in Kennewick and in central Kitsap school districts, in Longview, just as they do in Capitol Hill and in the Seattle School District. We are everywhere.
So now that bill heads to the governor's desk. I asked Governor Inslee's office if the governor was planning on signing it. They say he hasn't officially reviewed the legislation yet, but they noted that he has been very critical of these book bans all across the country. Christine?
So, Drew, this week, some of those controversial initiatives will get public hearings. What is going to happen with those?
This is a complicated one, so bear with us, folks. A little background here. There were enough signatures on 6 different petitions to put 6 initiatives on the table here in Olympia. Legislators have already decided just to send 3 of those directly to the voters come November, and those are the ones to repeal the capital gains tax and the Climate Commitment Act, and one that would allow people to opt out of the long-term care tax. The other 3 initiatives, though, will have hearings here in Olympia this week. Initiative backers wanted all 6 to come up for votes here, but that will not happen. Conservative Brian Haywood funded the Let's Go Washington effort that got more than enough petitions signed to qualify these initiatives. Lawmakers are expecting big crowds when the other 3 get their hearings this Tuesday and Wednesday. Legislators will hear the initiatives dealing with parental rights, banning an income tax, and rolling back the restrictions placed on police pursuits in 2021. Since those limits went into effect, law enforcement says criminals have taken advantage of the fact that they just won't be chased for property crimes, even car theft. Those initiatives have all been granted 1-hour hearings this coming week, as I said, on Tuesday and then on Wednesday. It's still not clear if there will be any more time set aside for those initiatives. They don't have a lot of time because, as we said, this session wraps up March 7th.
All right, Drew. Thank you very much for that update and that recap. We have a lot more ahead to look at. And if you want to follow our coverage of the Capitol as the session wraps up, text the word session to 206-448-4545 and we'll send you a link.